Hi, I'm Mary Mazur. This is Change Your Funk to Fun. This episode today, are going to be discussing: is it hard for you to forgive some things? Woo! Yes, that's what we're going to be talking about today. I have an amazing guest that's coming onto the show with us today, and it's Charlene Kubik. So Charlene is a psychic facilitator and a heart mentor, and she is based in Woodbridge, Illinois. Charlene is a former fashion designer, a homemaker, a musician, a performer, a teacher, and a retail manager. After years of suffering with chronic illness and trying many diets, medicines, and healing modalities, she discovered Psyche and its beautiful process, and now has been happy and healthy ever since 2020. Oh, what a gift! Charlene has brought a wealth of experience and compassion to her role as a preferred Psyche facilitator. She's completed all the trainings of Psyche. She did the basic, the advanced, the master, the health and well being, and the divine integration. And you might say Charlene lives and breathes Psyche as she practices it daily with herself. And she also offers it for her friends, her family, and her clients. And at the end of the show, you'll be able to find out how you can get a hold of her, have even like a free consult with her, and see if she'd be a great fit for you to help you with you also becoming healthy and happy in your lifetime. So we welcome to the show, Charlene.
Hi, Mary.
Hello, Charlene. So good to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so here let's first talk about how you and I got to know each other, because I always love how the serendipities, right, are the connections. Yes. So how did you meet me? How did I meet you?
Well, I was working downtown Chicago at a retail job. I was managing a violin shop, and I was
Mm.
commuting on the train from the suburbs, and I was reading Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief. And I
Oh,
really, really loved that book, and it just really spoke to my heart. And he talks in there about how our thoughts and our emotions affect our biology and our health. And I really felt like that book was speaking to me. And so he said his favorite healing modality was Psyche, and I'd never heard of it. So I looked it up, and before I knew it, I was sitting in your classroom in Indianapolis, and you were teaching me Psyche. So that's
yeah.
how we met. And I felt like you were speaking to the choir sitting in your class. I feel like when I walked in, you had me at hello. So
Isn't that awesome? Yeah. What year was that? I didn't remember what year.
2020.
In 2020. Wow. Wait, when all the shakeup and all the changes. Wow. Yes. And how potent. That's right. That I only took 1 month off in 2020 in April. Because the whole, shenanigans in March. And then I said, all right, let's get rolling again. Yeah. We still had an in-person workshop, and people came like you were courageous, you were brave, you didn't buy into all of the fear that was going on at that time. I know, isn't that amazing? And we had a whole group of people there. I mean, it was a nice group too.
Yeah, I remember
Yes.
it happened right before the pandemic. So I got in the basic training right before the pandemic, and then the advanced training and all the other trainings was postponed a little bit. But like you said, we found ways to work through it, and we got through it, and I got all my training done, and it's just been wonderful ever since.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so yeah, that's helping me remember. So you're right. We did it just before the whole craziness. So it was like just before. Because I remember I was super busy in March. Like I literally did 3 workshops in that month, and they were filled. And it was like, yeah, people, thank goodness, received this gift, and then with the tool that they can help themselves with all the changes that are happening. Right. So yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So good. Well, and we'd love to dive into exactly about this role of forgiveness. And I know for each of us, and I'd love for us to share our own personal stories and traumas that we've had, because when we are not able to forgive, all it is that at the subconscious level, we have a level of survival and protection. And with that survival and protection, our hearts will close off. We'll be more in the mind and having to just navigate more of a hypervigilance, or just a more being guarded and more protective of our hearts and of ourselves, especially when we have been hurt. And this is what we do as a human. And then the gift of the human, beingness is when we do connect in with our divinity, which Psyche helps us with greatly, to remember who we are and that we are divine beings and that it's safe and it's actually really good to open our hearts again. And that's the gateway of forgiveness is forgiving of your heart, for opening up again. So yeah, so would you like to share a little bit about some of the traumatic experiences you had that closed off your heart that helped it hard for you to forgive? And I will do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on the show, because I love the topic of forgiveness. And
Mm,
so I'm happy to speak about that. And then when you said, "Oh, we're going to share our personal stories," I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is an opportunity for me to be vulnerable," because
mhm,
quite honestly, I don't think I've ever shared this particular aspect of my journey. I've always shared how I had chronic illness, and that's what drew me to Psyche was the chronic illness. But I don't think I've ever shared how I drew that chronic illness into my experience. so, so it does go back
right.
to a
Get to the roots of it.
it does go back to a
Yes.
childhood
Yeah.
trauma. And what happened with me was um, my mother died of cancer when I was 8 years old, and so
Mm,
I
mm,
had a very sad childhood, a lot of grief.
mm,
She was sick for a couple of years, so it was the impending doom thing. We knew she was, very ill, and um, we were Catholic, and so it was all about praying and asking God to heal my mom, to save her, from dying. And um, so when she did die, as a child, I thought, "Oh my gosh, God didn't hear my prayers. God didn't
mm.
listen to me, or God said no." And so when I think in terms of forgiveness, I I had to forgive God. you know
Mhm.
I had to forgive God. I had to forgive, you know I had to forgive God for taking away my mom. And it's funny because when you're a kid and you're crying and you're upset, all the adults in your life will try and soothe you and comfort you with, whatever they can, whatever comfort they can give you. And I remember being told, "Your mom left to go be with Jesus in heaven." and
No.
I thought, "Oh my gosh, when she wanted to be with Jesus, why not just be with me here?"
Right, exactly. Why'd she choose Jesus over you, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And another thing that I was told was God listens to the prayers of small children. And so you need to pray for your mom. And so I thought, well, I didn't do a good enough job.
Oh,
I didn't pray the right prayers, or worse, I was a bad kid. And so I was
mm.
being punished. God decided, well, I'm just going to take your mom. You did, it's all your fault, right? So
Oh,
I had all the forgiveness. I had to forgive God. I had to forgive myself for being, the bad kid, or whatever, the bad prayer, or, whatever I did wrong that I felt I had done wrong, to be punished that way. Um, and I had to forgive my mom. I remember my dad telling me, he confided that when she was dying, she said, "The hardest thing about dying is leaving all you guys."
mhm.
And you know that's comforting in one aspect, but then the subconscious mind takes that and says, "I'm leaving you."
Yeah.
That's what
You feel
sticks in the
abandoned.
subconscious mind,
Yeah,
right?
you feel abandoned, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, all the abandonment issues and all that. Yeah. Yeah, so and if that's not enough, it's like it goes even deeper than that. It's like, okay, I had to forgive God, I had to forgive my mom, I had to forgive myself. I also had to forgive cancer. you know It's like cancer killed
Right.
my
Right.
mom.
People get cancer, right?
Right. Cancer killed
Yeah.
my
Well,
mom.
in this
So
world, we make right. This world teaches that though, like to fight cancer, and cancer's so horrible. It's almost like it's so evil, or look what it does to people. You're right. We create meaning that we think this is such a horrible. thing, and it is sad to actually lose, your loved one. And like you said, you've even told me before, like your mother was like your biggest, closest love connection because it's your mother. Your mother's love is the first connection, that first true love. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
uh,
So it's like, okay, and that's an apology that, if you're waiting for cancer to apologize, that's not going to happen, you know?
right.
So
Yeah.
it's like that's one of those things about forgiveness is that, a lot of times we need to forgive without hearing an apology. And that's one of the reasons it's so hard to forgive sometimes because, the perpetrator as we see it, is someone or something that, can't say that they're sorry. And I also had to forgive doctors. I had to forgive the whole medical profession, because they couldn't cure my mom. They couldn't save my mom, and it's just, I think about it over the years and it's like over the years, all of these things unfolded little by little. It wasn't all in one big, glob of forgiveness. It was just it was a process, right? It was a journey of forgiveness. So yeah, that's my main thing. How about you?
Yeah, no, I get it. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for being so vulnerable to share that. And the gift is that when you were ready, when you got sick and tired of, like you say, the chronic illnesses, which is a huge one, right? You stood in your power. You found a way to activate your power. Psyche helps that greatly, to be able to recognize that you are the co-creator of your life. You're not just a character that's living in all and suffering and surviving. You are actually the player in these roles that you at the highest level before you came down here chose to see what it's like to experience so much love, especially from your mother, and then to actually lose that love here as a physical being, to have that disconnection, right? And then and like you'll be talking more about your own self love, and that we'll be talking later on about what the gifts that this all brought for you, which is so huge. Is that, yes, that there is purpose in all of it. It's just when you're in the thick of it, you can't see the purpose. It's impossible to see the purpose. We're gonna be mad, we're gonna be sad, we're gonna feel like the guilt, the shame, the fears. Those are those denser, contracted energies, those opposites of actually who we are here. We chose to experience this as a third dimensional being here, to actually see how far we can get in our disconnection of our true love of everything and all the connections of everything. Yeah. And how great though that you are on a life journey of full fulfillment of all of this, which is actually so. And I've seen it in you. I've witnessed your transformation. It is so amazing. It is such a gift. It is, because you are able to access the true love of who you are and to love fully, even with having the loss of your mother at a very young age. And that is a miracle. That is so amazing. And that you are a bright light for many others who have lost their loved ones too at such young ages, which did distort, what you thought about the world and what you thought about yourself, right? Which is really so huge. Yeah. The interesting thing is that for me, it also happened when I was 8 years old. So I think that's that figure eight of that magical date year. I don't know for other people too, but for me, that's where I lost my innocence. Yes, I had much of like fear. My dad was a heavy drinker coming back from Vietnam, and I was being raised during the civil rights crisis in Washington D.C. while they're burning down the streets. So there was a lot of revolution happening. But even that, I felt like I was pretty tough and doing well. But what happened for me is that one of my dad's friends, another Marine, came over and sexually abused me, or molested me and really raped me, even to the point that my body system even blocked that until I got to the deeper levels where I didn't even have a memory of that until, but my body did, and of that. And I also was raised Catholic, which is interesting. So we got the whole guilt, scenario. So I thought there was something wrong with me. And then I was too afraid to tell anybody. I thought that I would get in trouble, that I would really seriously get into very banned. And I think he even said things that he would hurt my parents. So I didn't want anybody to get hurt if it got found out. And then for me, so I didn't have kids did live until their 80s. I didn't have that loss, but what I lost my self-worth. I lost the value of who I was. I had the experience of humiliation and of being trespassed against of my own body, without my saying or doing, especially as an 8-year-old girl. Where that was way before any kind of sexual thing should be happening to somebody, right? And the weird thing was is that he was a nice man. Like he brought me presents, and he was just being all lovey dovey. So which is really creepy and strange too, right? Because you're like, dude, that you're meant to do that with an adult, not with a child. So, and then as a teenager, he was going to come back and visit. I think I was about 14 or 15 years old, 15 maybe, and I freaked out, which was really great because I literally had a voice now. I was older, I was a teenager, and I could speak up. And that's one of the gifts it brought me is to speak my truth. And I finally told my parents and I told them what happened. And I go, heck no, I am not going to be here. If he's coming here, I'm leaving. I took off and I went to my friends and stayed there. But what happened is that I felt very hurt by my dad because my dad and my mom, but more my dad, didn't do anything, didn't say anything. They were like in shock. They didn't talk about it anymore. They didn't let me know if he came or not. I don't even know if he actually came. I don't think he did, but I don't know. It was never talked about again. Just went right under the rug. Never brought up ever again. Not to me, not to anything. I wanted him to beat him up, call the police, get this address, do something, or at least let me know that you talked to him and said, "Don't you ever touch my daughter again." Even just some have my father to stand up for me, right? Didn't happen. So what I didn't realize I did is I actually, boom, put a whole nother barrier because now I felt betrayed by my dad that he what couldn't even. And so one of my giftings with the gift of Psyche uh, is that with the gift of Psyche in the health and well-being workshop, I actually had a reactive response to politics. I used to be really, really into politics. But what it was is because I wasn't able to forgive my dad because of that, because I didn't feel like he stood up for me or protected me. And and plus having a guy come into your home when you got little children and let them do whatever they want without you knowing where he is or what he's doing, that too. There was nothing there. He was probably drunk and whatever. So um, and then I did with the gift of Psyche. I was able to actually connect back in with my subconscious, and I was ready to, and I released it, and I forgave my dad because he could only do what he could do. And what I didn't know when my dad was 80 years old, he shared a story at his 80th birthday party because he finally could just felt like he could share it because he's 80 years old. That when he was 8 or 9 years old, he had a hitchhike to school because his parents didn't have a car and he went to a private Catholic school. He literally, as a boy, had a hitchhike to school, and a truck driver picked him up one day and made him give him a blowjob as an 8 or 9 year old boy. So my dad already had his own sexual abuse, trauma, humiliation stuff that happened with him, where he lost his innocence and never told anybody his whole life about that. So his own guilt or shame that he was holding, even with his own stuff, like you said, there's something wrong with me, or I definitely did something wrong. That kind of energy is a very limited contracting, energy with that. So through the journey, I've been able to have a lot of compassion. And then with the gift of Psyche, I did go, and the man's name was David that did that was like my perpetrator. That I did. We have like a relationship balance. So we did the relationship balance. We did different pieces where I actually have compassion for that man because he's a very hurt soul. He probably, who knows, he might have been abused as a little boy too. And it may have been, yeah. So his spirit is saying is that his lineage had all kinds of persecution, you know, in their lineage of what was done to them, that they were just continuing it on at the subconscious level. They didn't even really realize what they were doing. They didn't know how to get out of um, that type of yeah things that they do and stuff like that. So I am so grateful, and it is in our readiness. It's in our readiness, in what, like for you and I, when we got to the point in our lives where yes, I want to be healthy, I want to be whole, I want to feel good. I love to feel good. I love to shine my light bright, and having that heaviness wasn't allowing me to do that. Not at all. And you really can't. You're still going to be stuck. You're still going to be rare. And like you say, you can go into, like you say, the illnesses, even to that level. So I feel very free now, and it still perks up. I still have issues that are aspects that will still spring up related to that. So I know it's going to be a life journey for me, and I'm learning how to have compassion for my own self, kindness for my own self, love, true love for my own self, and then in time, seeing myself as being pure, clean, beautiful, even with having, like you could say, the tarnishing or the abuse, that kind of stuff with that. So I know, right? And I know what a gift. And that the gift is that there are tools that can help us, because now that we are on the other side of it, it is way easier to forgive now when anything happens. Then it's a choice. It is a choice. And I choose to want to have an open heart. And I choose not to close my heart anymore. I don't. And whatever is here, I know it's here for me. And it's not happening to me. It's actually here for me. I'm the one creating it actually for the experience. And once each one of us actually admit that, we can let go of that victim energy, which is
Mhm.
super huge, because the victim energy is actually what closes off your hearts too, because you feel like, right, you're being perpetrated or you're being punished, like God was punishing you, right? Or or right, because you didn't pray the right way, or whatever idea we came up with, because we just make up ideas, we make up meanings. This is what we get to do here. We get to make up any meaning of anything and any definition of anything, and we can change those meanings, we can change those definitions. And that is actually one of the biggest gifts that we help people with psyche. What do you want instead of that old way, right? How would you like to be? How would you want to be? Isn't that neat?
It is neat. I love it. And, most of these beliefs, 95% of them are in the subconscious mind. The things that we come up with, especially as children and going through the traumas, it gets stored in the subconscious mind. And at a conscious level, we know it's irrational, or we don't even know that it's in there.
Yeah.
And so you just go running on what I call autopilot. Your brain just keeps going, and you go through the motions of life, and you don't realize, what's running in the background. These programs are running in the background, and that's the beauty of Psyche, is you can just go in there and change the programs for health and happiness. And you mentioned too about letting go of that, um, the victim mentality and the victim consciousness, and that's huge, because it's like, if you forgive and still hold on to that, it's like you're saying, I forgive you, but I know you did me wrong, but I'm a good, better person than that. So I'm going to forgive you just because, it's the right thing to do. But when you really, truly forgive deeply, you let go of that victim mentality, the victim consciousness, and you realize, hey, this event, this happened for a reason, for my own healing, that it is an opportunity for healing. It's an opportunity for that miracle in your life, for that healing to occur. And without the event, without the perpetrator, or without the disease, without the cancer, whatever it is, the opportunity would not have been there. So, we come full circle, and it's beautiful.
Yes, yes. Isn't that the truth? Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah, it really is. Ooh, and would you like to talk a little bit more on the giftings, like you said, that what are the giftings that experience of losing your mom at a young age has brought you to where you are now?
Well, definitely, since our topic today is forgiveness, that losing my mom brought the gift of healing, the gift of forgiveness, the opportunity to heal. And I think my major life lesson to learn is that I'm not alone. You know,
Mm.
when I felt abandoned, when my mother left me, this kind of mentality, um, or even that God forsaken me, or God didn't listen to me, or whatever. And it's like, the life lesson is that I'm never alone, that my mother is always with me, God is always with me, spirit's always with me, and all I need to do is to open my heart and just to feel that presence within me and tap into that, you know. And uh, that's one of the reasons I love heart math. And I'm also a heart math mentor in addition to doing the Psyche, because heart math, like Psyche, is a very simple, effective, and powerful change method. But instead of tapping into the subconscious mind, we tap into the intelligence of the heart. So it's
Oh,
just really,
yeah.
it's just really, really beautiful. So when I work with people, I do a little combination of the
Beautiful.
Psyche and the heart math. methods, and it's very, very powerful. And it really allows people to tap into their own inner guidance, which is
Yeah.
huge. And so
Yeah.
the sessions are always different. I never know which way they're going to go, and it's always my partner that I'm working with who directs the session. We just follow along with whatever inner guidance comes up, and so it is really beautiful. So that's a
Oh.
gift. And I think another gift also is when you release the judgment.
Mm.
Because when you forgive, you're releasing that judgment, and judgment is always going to carry that separation and guilt. And you release the judgment, especially self judgment. When we judge ourselves, we tend to be very judgmental of others as well. And I remember just years of just being really, you want to call it tightly wound, or just I had to have things a certain way and people had to be a certain way, and I was judgy, and it's like, why am I so judgy? It's because of all the self judgment I was keeping within me. And so that's a really, really beautiful gift when you forgive and you just let go of all of that judgment. And then once you stop the self judgment, then it's so easy not to judge others. Because you see, when you know the light is within yourself, you can see the light in others, and it's really, really amazing. And so that's a wonderful gift. And I think the last gift that's really important is joy. It's
Yeah.
like for me, just growing up with all the sadness, with all the grief,
Mm.
and holding on to that, and when you open your heart and you let go of all the grief, the sadness, the guilt, you forgive, then you don't feel guilty for having joy in your life.
Yay.
You could feel open and expansive, and allow that joy to come in. And so that's just a wonderful, beautiful gift.
Oh, isn't that silly that we actually feel guilty for being joyful, right? I mean, and especially during grieving. When you did lose someone, it's like to actually let yourself, and that's my sister. She lost her daughter when she was 5 years old. And it was a freak accident. She fell off a pool slide. And yeah, and then she felt like she had judgment because my parents made her have an abortion when she was 16 years old, and uh, and it was just that whole harshness, that judging, right? That all of that. But in time, I mean, she is, and she, thank goodness, she remarried, and she married a gentleman who also lost his son, so they have that commonality when they each lost a child. And then it is a choice. It's a choice to have joy, a choice to love, to let go of that guilt. It's literally just letting go of that energy when you're ready. And Psyche is really huge to do that. And I'm sure Heart Math too. So such a thing. Yeah. And what I want to offer too is that even with our own, my face is freezing up. We'll see when it comes back. Um, There we go. That even with our own stories, that we are here to meant to inspire others, because we have done it, they can do it too. And it is in their readiness. They have to want to. It is in that decision making of this art. And a good question to ask: are you sick and tired, like you say, of having illnesses? Are you sick and tired of having being just angry, or being that life's not that good, or uh, struggling, having things be hard, stuff like that? A lot of it, the gateway of forgiveness and letting go, can help tremendously with that. I used to, when I was involved with my church, when I used to be involved in churches, I've kind of moved beyond that, but that's okay. But I used to lead a starting point ministry because I love Jesus. He's awesome. And Mary Magdalene's awesome too. But in the starting point ministry, it was people that were starting to have a new strength in their faith. And there was a woman that came in, and it's very personal and private, and people are really dealing with real stuff and that they shared. And I shared the story of my grandmother, who was 88 years old, very amazing woman. She was a very devout Catholic. She was part of the Dominican order. She said the rosary every day, and fully loved God, loved Jesus, loved her, loved being a mother, loved being a wife. She just was a very loving being. Lived to be 97 years old, by the way. And
Wow.
a divine light being that, her husband had died, so she's living singly down in Florida. And she would walk to the grocery store for like 2 blocks away and then walk home because she was in good health in her late 80s, 88 years old, right? Well, one of the times that when she walked there, one of the baggers that they just recently hired, this new bagger, asked if he could help her take her groceries home. And she said, sure, because that's nice. That's very nice of the kind man to do that. When she got back to her apartment, he raped her and almost killed her, like strangled her, like, yeah, beat her up. She was all black and blue. I think even her broke her arm. And even while it was happening, because when she shared this, she says, why are you doing this to me? Like, she just didn't get it, like, didn't understand, like, especially an old woman like that. Like, what are you doing here? Right. The neighbors heard and came in, and thank goodness stopped it. And then he went back to work. He thought it was okay to go back to work. And I guess he did have a record. He actually did have a record too. And what I loved is what the model that my grandmother showed me and showed others. I was so amazed by that. She was truthful. She was honest. She stood in her power. She went to court. That man went to prison for 25 years. He was found guilty with that, and her body healed. And then she chose to forgive him. She knew he was a hurt man that obviously knew what just was a very, very hurt man that actually needs love. So she actually prayed for him and sent him love. And she says, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be here. I want to live my life and live it fully. And she lived 10 more years. So when I shared that, I know, which was really pretty amazing. She did end up moving in with her daughter. Her daughter used to be a nun, which is amazing. But she and then so she did lose her freedom a little bit because she realized I might be a little vulnerable. People could take advantage of me, which kind of sucks. But she made the best of it. When I shared that story, there was a woman in the starting reform ministry that her eyes like bugged out. And then the next week she came back and she just pulled me over to the side. She goes, "Hey, my I found out that my ex-husband, but when he was my husband, abused my daughter sexually, and I never knew it the whole time while we were raising her. And then my daughter finally told me. So she was obviously so angry and rageful and hateful for him and even her own self. She felt so guilty that she couldn't protect her daughter and didn't even know that happened. Hearing my grandmother's story, she chose to forgive him. She did. She realized he's a very hurt man that needs a lot of help, and she's helping her daughter, move through that, and she's working with her own self to love herself, to forgive herself, even if she didn't realize any of that was going on, that it was just something that she never knew. If she did know, she would have done something about it, and she just didn't. She didn't know. And it was so beautiful to literally see her face and see her demeanor. She literally shifted. It was a choice. She chose it. And how precious is that? So that's what I want to offer for people more than anything is know that we have a choice. Know that you can also get help, because I mean the psyche can greatly help because you work at the subconscious level. It's a very fast approach to be able to help you with that. And you'll feel much better because when you do forgive, you're forgiving your heart. You are opening your heart again. You are sharing your true love to yourself and to others again. And it's one of the most precious gifts you can give yourself. And like you say, also letting go, which is absolutely absolutely beautiful. And on the last note, I just want to say with your mom, what a beautiful gift, like your spirit was sharing, is that you're honoring people for their time that they're here. Each of us only have our own time. We all go, we all have our own. That was your mom's journey for what she chose to do, and your journey to be a daughter to experience. You can honor it and still choose to love her, love God, love you. That's the whole gift of it all. And be connected with her spiritually. So it's like, oh, it's so precious. So how can people get a hold of you, Shar, if they'd love to have a session with you?
Well, the easiest way is just go to my website, ckhealing.com. That's C as in Charlene, K as in Kubik, healing.com, ckhealing.com.
Yay! Love it. And then if they want to come reach me, they can go to my website, igniteandhealyourlife.com. That's igniteandhealyourlife.com. And I am a certified Psyche instructor. So we're about 35 of us across the world. I do teach. I'm teaching one this weekend in Grand Rapids, Michigan, June 14th to the 16th. Yay! I'm offering one in July, an online workshop in July 12th weekend. So and all across the world, people come from all across the world for that. And in September, it'll be in Kentucky and Tennessee. I also am doing other things too, like you love the hard math. My spirit's moving me to offer beautiful retreats. So at the end of June 28th to the 30th, I'm offering a nurture and nourish your soul retreat, which you might even want to look up, where we're going to be doing breath work, sound bowl healings, qigong, horse therapy, and we're going to sprinkle a little psyche in at the end. But I love assisting people because I know my own personal transformations I've done for myself. I know others can do it too. So, oh, it's been such a joy. Thank you for being on the show. It's such a
Thank you
gift.
for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Have a fantastic day and let your heart open up, forgive and let go, and receive the love of who you are. All right, thank you.